What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to Mayhem. I'm Dr. K, totally a real doctor. I kid. Tonight, we're going to continue a series that I started a while back. Sorry, I took a couple of weeks off. And we've been working on making a miniature of a cybernetic fox character, anthropomorphic fox. I'm making it for a buddy of mine who is opening up his own tabletop gaming store down here in Seguin, Texas, called Foxton Games. You should totally check it out if you're in the area. Let's go ahead and turn off this banner. Before we get started on that tonight, though, I kind of wanted to take a little bit of a side quest and talk about making custom dice, if that's something that you might be interested in. So, we're going to kick this off with this, and we're going to talk about a few different things, feudal techniques, and adjust my volume here. There we go, much better. So, there are a handful of ways that you can go about this. I'm going to show you where I landed on how to get your basic dice. I tried making them in Blender. You can totally do that. I've also tried making them in Rhino, 3ds Max, basically anything that's going to give you some sort of polyhedron. You can do it the hard way, or you can do it some way that's already kind of been figured out, right? So there's this cool little application called Dice Maker. You can find it online. Just go to Google, search Dice Maker. It's run through Unity. It's 100% free. There is an end-user license agreement, but you can basically go through and make your own little dice. We're going to talk about briefly how to do that. I've got a D20 and a D4 here, and I've already kind of worked on the D20 a little bit. The cool thing about this is that they've already figured out the numbering, and you can add custom emblems on here. And all you need really is a black and white image or an SVG that you can get if you either have, say, Adobe Illustrator, or if you don't have Illustrator, there's also Inkscape. And there is also an SVG creator. If you just Google SVG creator, it's an online sort of thing, so it'll take any black and white image that you have, and it will basically do what Illustrator does with its image trace, and it'll spit you out a black and white SVG, which is super cool. So you don't have to know all these programs to be able to do a simple little task. So if I could pass anything on to you, hopefully that was worth it. Now, the cool thing with Dice Maker is, well, one, it's free. It already has all of the types of dice that you would mostly want. Now, if you want something more custom, then you can certainly go through and make your own. But in most cases, especially with what I'm doing, what they have right here is pretty much mostly what I'm going to want. Now, I might go through and make my own version of something, but it'll probably be based off of an existing die. So let me kind of walk you through how this works, okay? So let's say I'm going to go through and I want to make a D10, right? Well, all of this is going to be based upon my face templates, and the face templates are just going to be based upon a font. What I've gone through and done is I've collected a few fonts. You can either use what's already natively on your machine, If you don't already have that, you can go get some from, say, places like DaFont. So let me pull this over real quick. So DaFont.com is a cool little place to get you some free fonts. Now, they're not all 100% free. Um, you will need to make sure that you are aware of the licenses that are available. For instance, this version right here, um, this type of font, this Engage, is 100% free. Now the thing is that you need to know what kind of file this is going to come with. It comes with a TTF, okay? This is looking for TTF fonts, right? So if I grab that font and open it up, you're gonna, well, there was something wrong with that particular one. I remember I did these last night, sorry. But let me grab a different one. So I had some sailor scrawl type of lettering, right? So it's going to go through and it'll update with the type of font that's available. Now, some of these things are incomplete, so whenever you're getting free stuff, it might not be completely complete, right? But the cool thing is that I can save this, and now all of my numbers have now updated accordingly. So they already kind of have this stuff pre-configured. Now, if you want something more customized, you can actually go through, you can draw out your own numbers and you can vectorize those if you want to. That is totally doable. You can actually take one of these faces and you can load a custom image if you want to. So let's see, I'm gonna pull this off to the side. So let's say we wanted to load my friend's logo here. Let me say I wanted to put that in there. Now, obviously, on most die, you want, if you're going to put a logo, you're probably going to want to put it on the highest number. So if I say Control Z, I reset that. Let's load the image here. Much better. Now, I have some options. I can offset it in the X or in the Y and make sure it's centered. Now, the reason I would want to offset it is that I might want to scale it up, right? Right. Now, you have to remember, it looks big on this screen, and this looks great and wonderful. But once you actually get it printed, that's not very big at all. So the other thing that you can affect is the engraving depth, right? You can make it a protrude if you want to. I'm going to leave it back at about 0.4. And that just makes sure that everything looks nice. Now, each one of these has an option. You can change the edge mode. You can put bumpers on it if you want to. You can affect how these look. I don't particularly like those, so you can switch it to something like a chamfer. It all depends on how you want it to roll, right? So if you want it to really roll pretty good, maybe something wide like that. I prefer a sharper look, but that's just me. So if I want it purely sharp, I'll just tell it sharp. You also have fillet, and you can change the width on this too. This is going to round it out more, right? I'm going to change this back to a chamfer. And I think that's okay for the width. Yes. Okay. And I'm going to switch back to my other font. More techie font. There we go. Now you'll see that some of these aren't doing so hot, right? So that means that you need to come through. If you're going to have a chamfer on there, you're going to want to. Whoa. So what we need to do is we need to fix the scaling of the font. So I'm going to change this down, and let's say we want to put it at 55, and then I want to do that for all of them. That way they're congruent. I mean, you can have a larger number if you want, but I don't think it's necessary. There may be a way to do this uniformly, but I haven't figured it out yet. So if any of you do, please drop a comment. That would be cool. 55. Never mind, I'm just going with what looks good to me. Make sure we didn't miss any. And then we'll adjust this one just a little bit. Okay, so I have my D10. I also have a D4 that I could do this on as well. In fact, let me go through and adjust these down. Don't need to go quite so small. Now, if you have like a pattern or something, you could totally add that in here. I prefer my D4s to be this type. I just the little pyramids, I've never liked the way that they roll. So I like something to actually roll a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these, and all I have to do is export them, right? So if I go grab my, I already have my D4 selected. So if I say main menu, export, I can tell it to export all of them or just the one that I have selected. So I'm going to go for this D4 teardrop, and I'm just going to export this. I'm going to put that over here in a folder. So that's been exported. I'm also going to export this one. All right. Now, before I go too far, there is an option here to generate fin supports. This is for your 3D printer. I tried to do this yesterday, and I ran some prints tonight, or I ran some prints overnight, and it did not do so well. These melted into this face. Now, some of it probably has to do with my print settings that I need to dial in, um, but I think that I would prefer going a little bit of a different route. I'm gonna have to sort that out, but we may try this again. But I think I'm gonna try something different first, because the first time that I actually printed my dice, I didn't have all this, and I just used the Chitu box supports, and it turned out pretty good. I did have to do some sanding, um, and there are some things I would definitely have to change, but it wasn't nearly as bad as what I got last night. So I'm going to forego this. And then also the cool thing is that you can save. So I already have a file saved. So you can keep adding your dice, and you can change all these things up. Um, Something else you can do is you can change the diameter. So if you like certain styles, or if you want to experiment with different styles, you can totally do that. Um, yeah. So now that we have our models, I'm going to go ahead and shut this down. This is already saved, so I'm going to close this out. We're going to hop over into Blender real quick. Now in Blender, I already have my D20 loaded up, and you can see that I have gone through and made some changes here. I'm going to show you how I got here. Let me go ahead and save this real quick, and let me start a new project so we can walk through this together, right? So I'm hitting A on the keyboard, and I'm going to delete everything. Now I'm going to import. I'm going to import an STL. And this is going to be coming from over here. And we're going to grab, what are we going to? We're going to keep it simple. We're just going to work on the D4. So I'm going to go import this STL. And right out the gate, there are things that I might want to affect, right? So one of those things might be, let's say I want to add some character to this. So I'm going to go into edit mode. There are a few things I want to do. So I'm trying to stylize this a little bit. I know that I want to get rid of some of these edges. So I'm just going to select them, delete, and I'm going to tell it to dissolve the edge. I'm just going to go around and grab similar edges, just like this. And the reason I want to do this is I want to wind up with just quads as much as I can, right? It does a pretty good job. Okay. And then should just have to grab these. Now the reason that I wanted to go through and do that is because I wanted to have just one face to have to deal with. What I want to do is I want to add some things to this that I'm not able to do out of Dice Maker. So I'm going to grab all of these faces, and here in a moment we're going to extrude them. So the way we're going to extrude, we're going to go Alt E, and we're going to extrude along the normals, like so. Okay. Now, next thing I want to do, I could leave it like this. I think that looks kind of cool, but it's not exactly what I want. So I'm gonna grab this, and the way that I'm grabbing all these is I'm just holding Alt and clicking, and it's grabbing all these faces right here. So just to save a little bit of time. Now, just going through and double checking, make sure I got all of these, because if I don't, it's going to cause me some problems. My dogs are making noise. Okay. I think I have them all. Now what I want to do is I want to invert my selection. So the way you do that, Control and I on the keyboard. And then what we want to do is we're gonna do a couple things. One, I'm gonna scale locally. Before we do that, we're gonna do a inset. So I'm gonna inset the faces like so. There we go. And then we're going to scale out. We're going to go Alt S. I'm just going to scale along that normal. And that gives us a little bit of a different look, right? Something else I might want to do is maybe try and soften these edges a little bit. So I'm holding Alt and Shift, and it's just grabbing that edge loop. Let's go around, make sure we got them all. Okay. I'm gonna right click and we're just gonna bevel these edges. And then I'm going to try something here. It might look terrible, but we're going to do an Alt S. Okay. And basically, what I'm trying to do is make some like little sci-fi panel things, right? Like we can even come through and make some changes here. So we could go do an inset. Then we could do like a scale. And then extrude along normals. But I don't think that looks so great. So. All right, so we'll leave it as that. So then I could take all of this and then I can go into, I could basically take this whole bad boy and just export this as an STL. We'll drop it. Where are we going to put it? Okay. Then, you just go through the process in something like Choo Box. Set it up and then go down. So, no, we're not going to update right now. Okay, whatever. Open. And there it is. Now, it looks like some of this got a little jacked up from the scaling that I didn't initially see. So let's go back to Blender and have a look. Yeah, it's definitely there. Well, dang it. So that's something we would have to deal with. And it's one of those things, like, I don't know how far back it was. Probably there. And it was probably when we did our scaling. I'm willing to bet. I bet it was whenever we went and did that, right? Yep. So if I just do a regular scale, there we are. Our scale is going to be local. So let's change it. Change it to normal. All right. Okay. So same thing. I'll spare you the torture of going through and add that bevel. I don't think it really did much of anything. Well, what if we did this? No. So if we do a now we kind of soften things a little bit. I'm trying to imagine how that would roll. May may not go so well, but we'll see. Okay, so now let's try this again. We go ahead and re-export STL, save over that one. We're gonna delete that. Much better. And then you run through the whole process. Now, since this is what I would probably do with this one, if I was gonna set this up, is I would probably start at an angle like that. And then for my supports, in fact, I would almost say you never want to have it right there on the plate. Just never ends well. There's a happy medium. You just need to find it. This could take a minute. All right. Now, what if we just took this? It's probably going to want more support than that. Trying to minimize the necessary supports. Anyway, you can see it would be a pretty substantial It's talking about an 8-hour print. Now, some of this is because of my settings. I want to clear all right now. My slice settings, my resin. I'm gonna reset this because my first go around wasn't too terrible. My second go around, I think my exposure time was way too long. So I think that was I basically doubled the exposure time on a lot of these things. And it didn't turn out very well and it took longer. So we're just gonna leave it at the default. And then I guess what I'm gonna do is let's see what happens if I turn this way, turn that way, and then lay it down. Then my support is only really necessary right there. And we'll support the snot out of that. Again, my concern being I don't want any major sagging, but we'll see. It's either going to work or it's not. So these being so close together might fuse together in one giant blob. That's also something I don't want. There's probably a faster way to do this. That's okay. It's telling me that I should probably have some here. But we're gonna ignore that and cross our fingers. Alright. So I'm gonna go ahead and tell it to slice. We're gonna tell it to start detecting islands. You wanna make sure you do that and make sure you don't have any floating geometry, because that can be a big problem. Now, every single time I run this, though, I go through and I delete the islands, and then next thing I know, it shows more. And I don't know whether you're supposed to just sit there and delete all of them or not, but anytime I've had leftover islands and gone through and printed it anyway, it seems to have turned out just fine. So. Okay, so see, it says there are 10 islands. Where's this one? Island right there. Where's number 9? 8. 6. Okay. So we're going to delete all islands. Until it's detect again. Now this could turn out great, or it could turn out terribly. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and save this. Thankfully, these more modern printers don't have such a limit on file names. I mean, the older ones, the controller, you just didn't have a lot of visibility on what the file name uh, was, so the fewer characters you use, the better. It's going to go through, write its program. And then once it's done, we're going to hop into ZBrush. All right, so we're done here. Let's go ahead and save this. No. Shut that down, yes. Save this too. I hope if I turn off caps lock. Okay. So we're going to save that. And then we will shut down Blender for now. Now we're going to hop over to ZBrush. Before we get there, or before we get started on our little character, what we're going to do tonight. Let me change materials. Put it on something shiny a little bit. And then I'm going to import one of those dice. So I'm going to import the D4. So once we have this inside of ZBrush, even now, this isn't the one that we edited in. I mean, it is the one that we edited in Blender, but it doesn't have the changes that we made. But let's say we want to make different changes, right? Um, so there are certain surfaces that we don't necessarily have to worry about whenever it comes to rolling on this one, right? So we could do some things like, I don't know, do a use a knife curve and come through and affect the geometry that way, right? Even here. Or let's see if we wanted to go from a little bit of a different. And then there's other little things you could do, right? So let's say you wanted to add some slashes to this, right? Now we could go through and we can sculpt on this if we wanted. Um, and that's totally doable. Something else we can do is we could take advantage of our live Boolean functions. So let's append a cube. And with this cube selected, I'm going to go through and initialize it to a Q cube. The reason I want to do that is because I have less geometry to deal with, right? In fact, I'm going to change the resolution. There we go. That way I have basically a D6, right? But what I can do with this is I can use this to do a few things, right? So if I want to turn on live Boolean, you can say I want this to Boolean subtract. And then if I turn off polyframe, and then turn off transparency, now you can see I can make some cuts and things, but I'm not exactly, I haven't exactly committed that cut yet, right? So I can change the angle, bring it inward. I can even, if I wanted to, let's say, let's change something up here. If I want to use my transpose line, there we go. Really skew this, right? I could make it much more acute. Take chunks out of it if you wanted to. Totally possible. And if I wanted to say, well, what if I don't just want that one? First of all, hold control. Click and drag. Now I have two cubes. And this one, we can change. First I want to make sure I have two different polygroups so I can mask this one off. Right. So you can kind of get the picture, and you can go to town with this. Um, you spend as much time or as little as you would like. And then of course, once you're done, like if this was, say, where you wanted to be complete, right? Um, you could take this guy and then just do a Boolean, make Boolean mesh. Then you just append your U mesh. Now, if I solo this out, turn off live Boolean, and there we go. I mean, we could take that directly to the printer, no problem. No problem whatsoever. So if you wanted something a little more customized, you can totally do it that way. Likewise, if you wanted to, let's say you weren't satisfied with this, let's say you're like, okay, well, that's awesome. What if I really want to sculpt them? Okay, let's sculpt. We go to geometry, Dynamesh. Now, let's have a look at our floor. Hold Shift P. Now, this guy, we'll see how it works out. I'm gonna make sure it's all one poly group. My Dynamesh, I'm gonna set to 1000. I'm gonna turn off blur. Dynamesh. And that did pretty good. I turned off blur because I didn't want to lose the geometry on those corners. You can see that it softened up a little bit, but it also retained these edges here. So it really just depends on what your goal was. Now, with what we have here, let's see. We probably have a slash brush. Let's see, /3. So I probably could have come through and just done a sculpt here. Turn off dots. Stroke is lazy mouse on. Yes, it is. Just put it at 0.006. A little bit of a radius. Whoa. So you can see, you can totally scribble on things like this. And with it being an SLA printer, I could probably take all this and be like, draw like a little something on there. Right. So I could probably take that whole little thing, right? And this will probably show up on the print. So let's see. I already closed down G2 box, but I should be able to take this. Now I'm gonna have to do something here to be able to make this work. So we go to tool. We haven't even gotten to the Fox yet. if I duplicate this so I'm not working in a destructive manner, this is soloed out, but I just want to make sure everything's turned up. I want to dynamish this or decimate this. So I'm going to go decimation master, preprocess current, and it's going to try to get down to 20% of this 1.195 million points. And it's going to do its best to try and retain the form. Now it's gone through and calculated, so let's go ahead and tell it decimate current. Okay, not too bad. Retain those edges, retain those. We're going to run it again. Pre-process current. We could probably send it over to the printer with this and it would be fine. But the lighter the geometry tends to usually be better. We just want to make sure that we're not losing details. Now those were already faceted, right? And remember, this is going to be so small that it's like something like this is going to, if it shows up, it's going to be really tiny. But we'll see. So I think this is good. So what I'll do here is I'm just going to go to my 3D print hub and go to millimeters, and the X 40 millimeters is should be about right. And the Z 46, Y 30. Okay. Let's go 50. And then we're going to export this STL as and now that I have it like this, let's go ahead and hop over to G2 box. Okay. Now we're gonna open. It looks like this. I mean, it's gonna try. For sure it's gonna try. So we'll see how it goes. Now because I have these flat areas here, the cool thing is that I won't have to worry so much about the support. I'm gonna rotate this 180 degrees.
Is this thing running past 10?
from here, we can just go ahead and do our supports. Basically, what I'll do is just load this bad boy up. I don't know how far out you need to space these. It's probably a methodology. Resin printing is like a whole new thing to me, so I do think that if I put them too close together, it just makes like a big blob. So I don't know that that's the way that we want to go. All right. We're going to try it with just that. And see how it goes. And at least if it messes up on this face here, we can sand it down, right? Okay. Hopefully that's enough. And it doesn't get too heavy and drop. We'll see. We will see. Okay, so we're gonna go slice. Basically go through the same stuff we did earlier. Detect islands. This one's taking a little while. Once we're done with this, we'll hop over to the Fox. Work on the face a little bit with what time we have left. In fact, we got a game this weekend. We're going to be playing 5e. It's supposed to be a one-shot campaign. Like, it was literally only supposed to last one session, and we've been playing this for the same game for over a year now. So it's kind of funny. And it's fun watching how it's evolved over time. But it's really just nice to sit down and catch up with friends. I never really had an interest in tabletop games. It's fun to play for me. I never really got into that stuff, and for me, it's mostly just a social thing, you know. Any day. Hopefully, the music's not too terribly annoying. It's hard to tell. They say that the audio should be audible around negative 42 decibels, but I can never tell until I go back and re-listen. And if I find it annoying whenever I go through and re-listen, then I'll try to make adjustments. Okay, I'm gonna delete those islands and save. Okay. Well, didn't realize it was going to take a half hour to just save all these dang files. Well, while we're waiting on that to save, let's see if we can. See if we can find my friend's store. Hmm. You sent me the link earlier. Oh, that's what it is. There we go. So, you still working on the website, but it's a cool thing. Something simple. If you're in the area in Seguin, go check it out. Are we done? G2 box. All right. Now that took half a century, let's go ahead and close this out. Yes, I would like to quit. All right. Do I want to save this? Let's save it just in case. Turn off solo. And let's have a look at a little character here. So we had started off I think we started off with the face and kind of backed off of it because sometimes whenever you get a little too involved, it gets difficult to see where you're at. So let me see. So sometimes with the head, it's easier for me to break things up into different subtools. So I'm going to break this off and split it and shape these ears just a little bit. Make sure we're working in symmetry for as long as we can, at least. Try to pull these around. Try to have a look at my dog's ears, because they kind of do this little thing where they fold like this right here. So I kind of want to mimic that. This is going to be a little tabletop character, so I'll make it, well, I want to make sure that it's able to print, first of all. Other thing is, I want hose, right? And with these sorts of things, if you've been in here before, listened to me for any amount of time, just let it find its shape. It'll, unless you're working strictly from a concept, let it find its shape. It'll show you what it wants to be. Get up.
This is gonna go all night.
It's okay to stylize a little bit. When you're moving these things around, make sure that especially with your smooth, drop the intensity a lot so that you can make these soft changes like this. It's always good to have some reference up. It's probably a big mistake that I have going on right now, so I'm just working off of. I've been looking at my dog's ears. So. Okay. Now for this head. Split hidden. Make sure we're in symmetry again. And one of the things I want to make sure is that canines have like these. Just like people, their skulls have certain features like the zygomatic bone that goes back towards the ear. And you can usually see it and that's what everything else kind of attaches to. You know, whenever you have fur and stuff like that that kind of gets in the way, it can be a little difficult to see. Let me see. Let me pull up some reference. So. Let's see. Let's find this little fox. So let's have a look here. So look at this happy little guy. You can see even underneath all this fur, you got your zygomatic that's going right there on the orbit of the eye. It's going to wrap around just like that. See? There's this. The eyes are going to take a shape, certain shape, so there's this real angular shape. And the nose kind of bulges out like that and goes back in. It's easier to see on this guy. So it's kind of a teardrop. And then Imagine there's a line going here, 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 here. From the side. So we keep this stuff up off to the side. Maybe we can arrive at something that kind of looks like a fox. Stylized fox. Let's bust this down a little bit. Bring this back. Let's split hidden. Split hidden. Split hidden. Okay. Just breaking these out. So make sure that symmetry is on. We're going to work on those angles. So there's that. So this is going to kind of come down this way, right? It's going to fill in this area. Don't worry about your geometry. If it doesn't look right, it can all be fixed. We'll work on the bottom here. I don't want to go too crazy. We'll maintain this eyelash or eyelid. I've got this. I'm going to take a step back, make sure I've got symmetry on. There we go. Now, the thing with this is that I also need to add some material here. So I'm going to grab these 3D brushes from Shane Olson, and we're going to just append this little shape here. Turn on the gizmo. And I'm not going to spend any time like trying to mess with any of the manipulators. I'm just going to brute force it in with the move brush. Turn up my intensity. Smooth that out. Really what I'm trying to do here is add that material we see on our little fox reference. Because if it's not there, it's not going to look right. It's just going to look kind of goofy. So there's that. Pull that out. Push it in. Pull that out. Pull that out. If you have a dog, you can look at your dog and you'll see it. There's some bony material, and then there's a little bit of fascia. It helps to define the face. And it's easier to do it at this stage, just little shapes, than it is to try and sculpt all this stuff later. It just reads easier. Okay. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to work on this nose. Remember that the nose on a fox kind of comes out as a bit of a teardrop, right? So it's going to taper down. And then there's also this matter kind of poofs out here. And then something else I want to do is add his actual nose. Like, a little button nose. It just helps finish things out right nicely. Ooh. I'm going to split that out. That way it's there. I think, let's see. We might need to add some material here or fill this in. Let's see how that think bringing that up will help. Okay. Then what happens if we move this back a little bit? We'll just keep trucking along here. Keep pushing and pulling until I think it just works. You know, it's all you can really do. Okay. Remember, always move around the model. What looks good at one angle might look terrible at another. Don't be afraid to go all the way back to the beginning if you need to. It's just a sculpture. Alright. Liking how that works out. Let's have a look at these ears. It's okay to mess around with the scale. See if that's any better. I think that's more along where I want it to be. Some of these things you just gotta feel it out. You'll know whenever it looks right. But you gotta be honest. Then, of course, if you think it looks good, send it over to somebody else and then let them have a crack at critiquing. And they'll, be willing to let people be honest and tell you what their opinion is of your work. Because you got to be able to take some level of criticism whenever it comes to artwork, especially yours, because you might not see things that other people are going to. They're just going to stand out to others. Some people are jerks, but not all of them. If you ask somebody to review your work, let them be honest. And don't get offended if what they have to say to you is not exactly what you want to hear. Because what's the point in asking somebody something like that if you're not willing to grow in the first place, And that's true of all of life. Okay, I think this is a good place to stop this time. I will do my best to be back on Thursday. And we'll start working on the rest of this. We need to get some hands going. I know we need to deal with this prosthetic leg. That's going to take a little bit of thought. And we also have some accessories and stuff like that we need to sort out too. So, okay, let's go ahead and save our work. Not too bad progress for 25 minutes of work, thanks to all the other stuff that we ended up doing this evening. Next time, try to be a little more focused, and maybe we'll have some dice by then. Hopefully these prints don't epically fail. Cool. All right, everyone. Thanks for hanging out. Hope you guys have an awesome evening, an awesome Wednesday. Be safe out there. Look out for one another. Be cool.